Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sudhaji, Assistant Professor, Department of History, GFGC, Ripanpet. Welcome to the session. Today, let us start our session with an inspiring quotation. Impossible is a word to be found only in the dictionary of fools. Whose quotation is this? Yes, this is the quotation by Napoleon Bonaparte, the Emperor of France. When you look at him, what comes to your mind? A great warrior known for his extensive conquests and military campaigns. Just like Napoleon, in ancient India, there was a king who has been depicted as a warrior on his golden coin. You observe this coin is wearing a coat, cap, necklace, earrings, holding a battle axe in his hand. On its reverse side, goddess is Lakshmi. The dress of the king as a warrior clearly indicates his passion towards conquest. He has been hailed as Napoleon of India by historian V.S. Smith. Could you guess who was he? You are absolutely right. He is none other than SAMUDRA GUPTA, the greatest ruler among the Gupta rulers. He was not only the first person to be compared with a Westerner. You might have also heard about Karnadasa as Shakespeare of India, Chanakya as Machiavelli of India. Not only the persons are compared with the Westerners, they also call Kashmir as Switzerland of India, Bombay as Manchester of India. Why it happens so? These are all Eurocentric approaches. Let us today explore Samudra Gupta as Napoleon of India through a critical analysis. Learning objectives of today's session: to enable the students to know about the conquests of Samudra Gupta and his early life, to learn his war strategies, to know the extension of his empire, to critically analyze the reasons to call him as Napoleon of India. Learning outcomes: at the end of the session, students will identify the enemies encountered by him. They will also distinguish the war strategies followed by him. They will decipher Allahabad pillar inscription. They will also develop the skill of locating the extension of his empire. To begin with, let us know about his ancestry. Samudra Gupta was the great grandson of Sri Gupta, the founder of Gupta dynasty. He was the grandson of Maharaja Ghatotkacha. He was the son of Maharaja Adhiraja Chandragupta I and Princess of Lichavi Kumara Devi. Samudra Gupta ruled India between 335 AD to 375 AD. You may be thinking that being a son of Maharaja Adhiraja Chandragupta I, since he belonged to a royal dynasty, he might have come to power as a matter of his privilege. But it is not so. According to Allahabad pillar inscription, in the 4th stanza, it has been stated that Samudra Gupta was a chosen successor of his father Chandragupta I because of his merit. His father has abdicated his throne in favor of his son, blessing him to protect the earth. Then all were happy, whereas his kinsmen were not at all happy. They got disappointed, they became pale, and they rebelled against him and challenged his claim to the throne. So initially Samudra Gupta had to fight with his kinsmen. He came to power not by his privilege but by his merits. Being a student of history, you know that history cannot be constructed without sources. I know that you are aware of the classification of sources. The sources of history can be classified as archaeological sources and literary sources. As far as Samudra Gupta is concerned, we have archaeological sources such as Allahabad pillar inscription, Mathura stone inscription, Iran inscription, and 8 types of gold coins issued by him. Among the sources, Allahabad pillar inscription is the main source, a primary, authentic, unsectarian, historical source which throws light on his early life, conquest, career, personality, and martial arts. It was composed by Harisena, the court poet, commander-in-chief, and minister of peace and war, Sandhi Vigrahika, in pure Sanskrit language. It has been inscribed in Gupta Lipi, a later version of Brahmi script. The language is Sanskrit, but script is Gupta script. Just like today, we write Hindi in Devanagari and also Sanskrit in Devanagari script. I will give an assignment. Can you say which is the script used to write English? Find out. Come to this Allahabad inscription. It comprises 33 lines which forms together single line. It reminds silent about Ashwamedha Yaga performed by Samudra Gupta. It is undated. This inscription is partly in verse and partly in prose form, which we call Champu Shaili. Basically, it was belonged to Ashoka, previously located in Kaushambi. At present, this inscription is in the fort of Allahabad. On the basis of Allahabad pillar inscription, let us know now about the Aryavarta campaign of Samudra Gupta. As soon as he came to power, students, he had inherited a small kingdom which consisted of the parts of northern Bihar and the frontiers of Nepal, eastern Uttar Pradesh, a partial part of Bengal. It was his greatest responsibility to transform a small kingdom into a vast empire. When he came to power, the political condition of North India was not at all good. There was confusion, chaos, and disunity among the rulers. Many petty principalities were also there. Among them, the neighboring kingdoms of Samudragupta were Achyutanaga of Ahichatra. It is in Uttar Pradesh near Bareilly. You can locate it. Ahichatra is in the map of India at present also. Nagasena of Padmavati of Madhya Pradesh near Gwalior, and Ganapati Naga of Mathura of Uttar Pradesh. These 3 rulers rebelled against him. Then Samudragupta, being a monarch, did not like this. He defeated them and made them to accept his sovereignty. After defeating these 3 Naga rulers in the Aryavarta region, which lies between Himalaya to Vindhya, he marched towards south. It's very interesting. This information we get from the lines of Allahabad inscription 19 and 20. It's more daring than the North Indian campaign because he had to undertake a long difficult journey around 4,800 kilometers down to the south. He had to face natural barriers, mountainous regions, and dense forests. Hence, he didn't enter into South India from the central part where he had to cross Vindhya, Satpura mountains and all. He had chosen the route along the east coast, Bay of Bengal. He crossed the dense forests of Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, and he came to Visakhapatnam. He crossed Krishna river and before that Godavari river, afterwards Krishna, and he reached as far as Kanchi, today's Tamil Nadu, Kanjivaram. He had defeated in his Dakshinapatha campaign as many as 12 kings. According to R.C. Majumdar, the historian, it might be a joint venture of both his army and navy. His naval power had helped him either in conquering the islands of Indian Ocean or getting their submission. His intention was to loot the enormous wealth of South which it had accumulated through its maritime trade. He neither annexed these territories nor tried to have direct control over these territories. Since they are situated far away from his capital city, if he had tried, it would have resulted in the demise of Gupta Empire, causing overburden of administration. This proves that he was really a diplomatic person. He went back to his capital city via Devarashtra and Kandesh without attacking the Vakatakas who were intact in the western part of India. Let's know what are the policies he followed during his campaign. That is Grahana, it means subjugation, attacking the enemies and getting their acknowledgement of his might. Moksha, liberating the enemies from his clutches. Anugraha, reinstatement, that is restoring the annexed territories to the respective rulers, through which he had achieved Dharma Vijaya in his southern campaign. Now let us know the 12 names of the kings mentioned in Allahabad pillar inscription. Mahendra of Kosala, Vyagraraja of Mahakantara, Mantaraja of Kurala, Mahendragiri of Pishtapura, Swami Datta of Kottura, Damana of Yarandapala, Vishnu Gopa of Kanchi, Nilaraja of Avamukta, Hastivarman of Vengi, Ugrasena of Pallaka, Kubera of Devarashtra, Dhananjaya of Kushalapura. After defeating these kings, when he went back to north, by taking advantage of his absence in North India, 9 rulers formed a confederacy, organized a rebellion against Samudra Gupta. This time he had followed Asura Vijaya, also called as Lobhi Vijaya. He has exterminated all the enemies whoever came in his way. You may be thinking that he was very cruel, but it is not so, because that was the period of what you call Raja Prabhutva, a monarchy not of democracy, Praja Prabhutva Allah. That is why the policy of war and conquest was the order of those days. So he has exterminated all his enemies in order to build a vast empire. Exterminator means Nirmulana, Shatrugala Nirmulana Madidamanu Anta. This statement has been proved or mentioned as exterminator of king in the Mathura stone inscription of Chandraguptadi II. Let's know the 9 kings who were defeated by Samudra Gupta. Nandin of Uttar Pradesh, Matila of Bulandshahr, Rudradeva of Madhya Pradesh, Nagadatta of Mathura, Ganapati Naga of Mathura, Nagasena of Padmavati, Balavarman of Assam, Chandravarman of Bengal, Achyutanaga of Ahichatra. You may be recalling the names, the 3 Naga kings who were defeated by him in his first Aryavarta campaign were also joined in this second Aryavarta campaign. Now, central campaign. After achieving a victory, Digvijaya, in the second Aryavarta campaign, Samudragupta targeted 18 kingdoms of forest area. According to Rai Chaudhary, this area lies between Gazipur in Uttar Pradesh up to Jabalpur in Madhya Pradesh. Dr. Fleet is of the opinion that after defeating these 18 chiefs, he had reduced them into serfs, that is, paricharikas, who accepted to pay taxes and obey his order, rendered their services. Nagpur and Bundelkhandi were the main centers of activities in this region. Terrified by the conquests of Samudragupta in all the directions of India, the border kingdoms such as Kamarupa of today's Assam, Dhavaka, that is today's Dhaka, Samatata, northeastern Bengal, Nepal, and Kartaripura in Punjab, Jalandhar district, these border kingdoms initially came forward to accept his paramount lordship. They acknowledged his might and they paid tributes to him and expressed their willingness to be under his authority. The 9 tribal republics in the western India too came forward to accept the suzerainty, supremacy of Samudragupta. You can observe here the shaded areas in the western part of India where Samudragupta had defeated Malavas, Arjunayanas, Yaudheyas, Madrakas, Abhiras, Prarjunas, Sarakanikas, Kavas, and Saraparikas. The fragrance of flower spreads in the direction where the wind blows, whereas the name and fame of a great person spreads in all directions. Similarly, Samudragupta's name and fame were acknowledged by many foreign rulers, among them Kushans of northwestern India, Shakas of western India, Sri Meghavarman of Sri Lanka, island country rulers like Java, Malaya, Sumatra, Cambodia. They came forward, sent their ambassadors and also presents of maidens. They sent Garuda emblem as a mark of their surrender. Even they had matrimonial relationship, particularly Shakas and Kushans with the later Guptas. Sri Meghavarman had got permission to build a monastery in Bodh Gaya. That indicates Samudragupta was very considerate of all religions, though he was a Hindu. This information we gather from a word mentioned in Allahabad inscription, that is Sarvadvipa Nivasin. Let us now know about the extension of Gupta Empire. I am very proud to say that Samudragupta created such a vast empire after Ashoka, whose borders touched the sea. So he was worthy to be called Samudragupta. Come to the borders of his empire, excluding the parts of Kashmir, western Rajasthan, western Punjab and Gujarat. A considerable portion of North India was under his sway and control. His empire was extended in the north up to Himalaya, Narmada in the south, Brahmaputra in the east, Chambal in the west, and all the other sides he was protected by his tributary states. Could you guess how much effort and risk, dangers he would have faced to create such a vast empire? Transforming a petty principalities, a small kingdom, into a vast empire was not an so easy task. He was rightly called as hero of 100 wars. In film, heroes won't get any wound. They won't be injured. only villains get all kinds of wounds. Whereas Samudra Gupta bared hundreds of wounds on his body as mark of his glory. So he deserves to be called as Samudra Gupta. To commemorate his conquest, his victory, his triumphs, he issued 8 types of gold coins. Among them, Ashwamedha type, in which he had been called Ashwamedha Parakrama, archer type, in which he has been told that is the person after having victory over the whole earth, the invincible one is going to win the heaven. ಪರಾಕ್ರಮದಿಂದ ಭೂಮಿಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ಜಯಿಸಬಹುದು, ಆದರೆ ಪುಣ್ಯ ಕಾರ್ಯದಿಂದ ಮಾತ್ರ ಸ್ವರ್ಗವನ್ನು ಜಯಿಸಲು ಸಾಧ್ಯ. Next, battle axe type, which I had explained in the beginning itself, which shows his zeal and passion for conquest. Chandragupta, the first type, Kacha type, and Lyrist type, in which he had been depicted as playing a veena, a well-versed musician, even more well-versed than Narada and Tumbura. Standard type and tiger type. The gold coins reveals the fact that the wealth he had plundered during his conquest, he brought not only gold but also coin expertise, as he was acquainted with Kushans also. Now we reached into the heart of the discussion, Samudra Gupta as Napoleon of India, a critical analysis. Historian V.S. Smith called him Napoleon of India owing to his conquests, but many historians raise objection over this because both of them lived in different periods of history. Samudra Gupta lived during 4th century in ancient India, whereas Napoleon lived in the 18th century in modern Europe. Both of them followed different war strategies. Napoleon Bonaparte was known for his insatiable thirst for power and conquest. He wanted to conquer the whole world, whereas Samudra Gupta's aspiration was limited. Napoleon was known for his attacks and annexation, ruthless murders and terrific battles, whereas Samudra Gupta followed subjugation, liberation and restoration. Napoleon met both amazing victories and overwhelming defeats, whereas Samudra Gupta remained undefeated throughout his life. So how can we call him as a Napoleon of India? It's not the number of battles they fought, the land they annexed. It's about the comparison is based on the amount of passion, zeal expressed and exhibited by both of them in the battlefield, because of which undoubtedly both of them are veteran warriors, born military genius, a great conquerors and successful commanders. Hence, undoubtedly, the title Napoleon of India is apt to Samudra Gupta. Nowadays, the word warrior has become very familiar during this pandemic COVID-19. Can you say in which context it has been used? Yes, it is Corona warriors. Each one of us is a hero. Each one of can become warriors in the battlefield of life. You can become a warrior of knowledge, a warrior of borders. Not necessary that you have to undertake a military campaigns to become a warrior. Based on your humanitarian works also, you can prove that you too are a great warrior in the battlefield of life. Now, let us know the personality of Samudra Gupta. Based on our discussion, we can sketch his characteristics and personality, that a man of culture. He was a man of culture, a pattern of learning, who enjoyed the company of learned people. He has given patronage to the learned persons like Harisena, Vasubandhu, and Asanga. He himself was a celebrated poet. That is why he has been called Kavi Raja. It is noted that he has written a Sanskrit play called Krishna Charita. A renowned musician, particularly in Veena as well. He was a Sarva Dharma Sahishnu, considerate of other religions. That is why he has given permission to Sri Meghavarma of Sri Lanka to construct a monastery in Bodh Gaya. He also encouraged literary activities despite being busy in battlefield. Moreover, he was very compassionate. He was compassionate even to his enemies. That is why he has given back the annexed territories to the respective kings who were defeated by him. He helped poor, afflicted, helpless, and low people as well. Conclusion. Before winding up the session, let us have a brief recapitulation of Samudra Gupta's personality. A person who was a prince, a son of Chandragupta I, rise to the level of Parakrama, Ashwamedha Parakrama, Vikramanka, transformed a small empire into a mighty empire by bearing hundreds of wounds in the battles as a mark of glory on his body, caused by spears, axes, and various other weapons. He laid foundation to not only the real founder of Gupta Empire, but also a person who laid foundation to the golden age of empire of Guptas. He has been compared with Kubera in wealth, Indra in wealth. Since from my school days, I had a question in my mind. Was Samudra Gupta a Napoleon of India, or even is much more than him? Today I got the answer for my question, which I would like to share with you before winding the session. After a prolonged discussion, we understood that Samudra Gupta was a versatile person who progressed from a prince to Parakrama, Ashwamedha Parakrama, Vikramanka, Maharajadiraja, Kaviraja, King of Kings. He transformed a small empire into a vast empire and laid foundation to golden age of Guptas. Hence, Harisena in his Allahabad pillar inscription has compared him with God and immortalized him forever. He has been compared with Kubera in wealth, Indra in power, Brahaspati in intellect. A man who has been compared with God, needless to compare with a mortal man like Napoleon. So totally is an incarnation of kindness who has immortalized him, is named by his deeds. Samudra Guptane Sati. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜಿಜ್ಞಾಸೆಗೆ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟರ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ತೃಪ್ತಿ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. Now it is your turn to think for a while. What deeds can immortalize our name in the present day world? Elucidate. Thank you, one and all. Hope you had enjoyed my session. Thank you so much.